Hello, this discussion is being brought to you by STEM News Technical Journal, home of the STEM News Chronicle. Those of us who are technologists, educators, scientists, and engineers have observed change in science and engineering workforce over the past 5 decades, and we understand that progress has been made in creating a more diverse workforce. Of course, that only demonstrates how much work there is yet to do. I'm Larry King. I am the founder of the STEM News Technical Journal, and I'm going to be discussing girls and young women in science perspective with several women in our network. Each of these ladies, like all of us that are viewing, are stakeholders in this issue, as well have served as mentors for girls and women. You know, while preparing for these interviews, I had to consider my own experiences and to be transparent and considerate of how I would approach my guests with questions. I was blessed, and frankly, that their openness to during our preparations and their willingness to share helped us create what we hope will be an insightful discussion about gender equity in science and engineering. The pathways for teenage girls into college for STEM professional success will be navigated by using some of the advice these ladies will be offering. You know, as a retired mechanical engineer myself, my career allowed me to personally see the need for authentic gender and race equity and inclusion for those of us who are underrepresented. Now, that said, let me introduce some friends of ours. They and I felt that we wanted to share a little bit more about girls and women and their experiences and their thinking about STEM. Again, my guests are Dr. Roneisha Worthy, Fatima Majid, and Dr. Christine Royce. Dr. Worthy has a PhD as an assistant professor in civil and construction engineering at Kennesaw State University's Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology in Marietta, Georgia. She has a Master of Engineering in Environmental Engineering from Tennessee State University and a Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Engineering from Vanderbilt. And also has a MBA, a Master of Business Administration from Kennesaw State University, the Michael J. Cole College of Business. Ms. Fatima Majid is Manager of Talent Programs and Industrial Partnerships with Lyft. She has supported the credentialing and program initiative designed to provide industry-recognized skills in articulating robotics by instructing a course utilizing curriculum such as safety, mechanical basics, electrical systems, control logic, operations, programming, and fluid power basics, and as well as setup configuration and troubleshooting. Majid is a NSBE professional chapter chairperson in Detroit, Michigan's NSBE professional group. She is a graduate of Tuskegee University with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering and a Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering from Lawrence Technological University with a concentration in bioinstrumentation. And she's also the 2020 recipient of the Scientist Mentor and Diversity Program Award. She gives time to a lot of different activities within the Biomedical Engineering Society and Toastmasters. The other person is Dr. Christine Ann Royce. She is a professor in the Department of Teacher Education and co-directs the MAT in STEM Education and Program at Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. At Shippensburg, she serves 3 consecutive terms as the chair of the Teacher Education Department and has guided and managed the development of graduate certification in online instrumentation learning environments. Currently, Dr. Royce is a member of the Board of Trustees at Valley Forge Military Academy and College, where she is chairperson of the Academy's Oversight Committee. She brings to all of her professional areas a unique education, preparation, and background of education, science, and business, having completed degrees and certification in all of those fields. Dr. Royce has published over 125 publications, most of which have focused in on the practical application of science in classroom settings. She is a recipient of the National Science Education Leadership Association's Outstanding Science Education Leadership Award and the Pennsylvania Association of Colleges and Teacher Education of the Year Award. I'm pleased to welcome our three guests. How are things going for you today?
It is going great. It has been a busy week and just a day for me. We started out this morning. We had a group of over 50 fifth graders come to visit our campus. Yes, and so they were from Hutchinson Elementary School, which is in East Point, and so they were an awesome bunch. We had fun. We got dirty, mixed concrete, did all kinds of things. So I had to kind of, get readjusted because they just left a little bit ago. So
okay. Now, did you tell them the formula?
Yeah, so
cement is the flour, concrete's the cake.
Yes, and it was so fun because we had pre-measured the recipe, but like we let them determine how much sand they put in there. And so it was very interesting to see how after the fact and they had mixed it, we didn't correct them or anything. And they were yeah, I should have put some more sand in mine because mine it's not as thick as I wanted it to be. So it was good. It was really good.
That's interesting. I'm pleased to introduce our first guest, which is Dr. Roneisha Worthy. Dr. Worthy, how you doing?
I am doing excellent today. Happy and gracious to be on here and to be talking to you.
Well, good. I'm glad you accepted our invitation, and during our preparation, I was really pleased that we shared so much in common, and I've noticed that to be a common link when I talk to people. You talk long enough and you find out that you've been the same places or done the same thing or know the same people, and it's really been interesting. I was asked a couple of weeks ago about my inspiration that led me to engineering, and my response was, I like to play with model airplanes and take things apart and put things together. I enjoyed reading the encyclopedia that my parents had got for us, and having mentors as I moved through my early education career. What was it in your career growth as an engineer that served as an inspiration to you that you can share with other girls and women?
I will tell you this, Larry. I my biggest and it just continued throughout my entire career inspiration has been my teachers. I mean, from third grade, I think not even third grade, second grade, Miss Boykins, my second grade teacher. She was the first teacher that saw in me more than I saw in myself. And I, attribute to her pulling me out of my shell and believing in myself. Then I go to third grade with Miss Swain, and she was just absolutely amazing. She was the one that, put me in that position so that, now I'm blossoming. Now I can really bud and spread my wings and get strengthened in my math skills and in my science skills. Then I met Miss Linda McLean in fourth grade, and it was just on from there. she introduced me to so much, from really just being inquisitive, being
Right.
competitive. You know, for girls, you're not taught that it's okay to be competitive.
Right.
But,
Right.
you know, Miss McLean, she like, you know, and my best friend and I, we were so close. And she's like, no, you guys can compete. Who can get the highest grade? And on and on. I mean, I have stories from all of my teachers because they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I just tell girls all the time, your teachers are there to support you. They know your strengths, they know your weaknesses, and they can point them out to you and be open about that, be accepting about what you can do. And so they have truly been, my angels, I call them. Many of them are still living, some of them are not.
Uh,
But one of my math teacher just recently passed away, Miss Adams, and I think that it was her who really made me confident that I could go beyond just, regular, arithmetic, and I
right.
was
Right.
good at algebra. That was
Uh,
it. That I was great at algebra. And so Miss Adams was there. So it's always been my teachers. It really
yeah. Yeah.
has.
That's interesting when that question comes up. How so many memories that you thought you had long forgotten, they just flow in. It's really the names and situations. It's really interesting.
I tell you this, and a lot of people might say that, oh gosh, you remember every single one of your teachers. I do, because that's the impact that they made on me. That's why
Sure.
I'm a teacher right now. I'm in college teaching college students, but I every single day I want to make that impact. Even
Uh,
so much, I'll even give you someone who is very much more recent in my academic career. And even when I was going through college, Dr. Carlotta Berry, which many people might know, she's a robotics extraordinaire. And she is my role model for how I teach in my classroom currently. I walk in the classroom every day and I'm like, I
uh,
want to bring the energy that Dr. Berry gave me.
all
And
right.
so that has really been, it's my teachers. It really has been.
That's I recall that after I earned my degree in mechanical engineering, and I was working uh, in technical sales with General Electric. One of the things that I had to do was to establish my credibility with my coworkers, with my customers, and also develop a working knowledge of all the services and the products that I would be responsible for to market and to sell. I remember a couple of occasions when customers expressed surprise that a black man held a job of the type that I had, and of course my performance with them afterwards or during really led to some accomplishments and awards that I received in sales and marketing. So I was challenged by that, but it helped me perform at a much higher level. What were some of the challenges that and opportunities that, as a Black woman in science, that you can share that you've faced and that you've met?
I will give you two of them. The first one was when I was right out of college. So here I am, going in trying to get my first job. And I started at this consulting firm. And I was the only Black female engineer in this pretty nice size consulting firm. And I started out, and they were not going to pay me what I deserved. They were not.
Oh,
But in that situation, I was at a mental state where, well, I got to come out and I got to get a job. This is what I have now. The
right,
economy was kind of starting to hit a downturn. And so I was like, well, I got to work. So I took the job, knew that I was underpaid.
right,
And so I set out and I said to myself, I'm going to show them that I am worth more than the number that they gave me.
yeah,
And so I went in there and I took over. I did. I took over. I showed them that no, I'm not an entry level. I can go out here and design roadways. I can also design roadways. I can also do traffic studies. I can also write environmental impact statements and do them very well.
All right.
And they were astonished. So much so in 8 months, I got a 20% raise.
Okay.
And let me tell you why I got a 20% raise, because they were afraid somebody was going to find me out and I was going to leave.
Yeah, right.
And so, so I will say, that wasn't the first time that I met those type of adversities where they saw me much like they saw you, and they just didn't believe that, oh, okay, this person will produce what my other folks that that might not look like me would produce. And so I persevered. I had a very stubborn mentality because my parents always say, I'm gonna show you. I was going to show them. So yeah.
That's interesting. I remember when I was working as a draftsman in the civil engineering department. I got the opportunity to actually set the grade for streets and all that kind of stuff, and the sewage systems and all that. And they didn't believe I could do it at first, but I still remember some of the guidelines, that I had to face, had to really overcome and to acquire in order to do that. So it was interesting. Dr. Worthy, in our earlier discussion, you really shared an awful lot of personal things that I think will really benefit the people that, especially the young ladies that view this presentation. When we last spoke about your career, you talked about a lot of those things. What advice would you have for a woman in science or engineering today in dealing with something that's being discussed quite a bit now, male privilege, either in a group or individual interactions?
This is something that I personally have experienced a lot throughout my career. And I would give a caution to those young girls. And that caution is to, when you experience imposter syndrome, because that might be the very first thing that comes to mind when you're in a kind of male, kind of privileged sort of environment. You automatically feel like, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't belong here. I would caution you to accept it, but then let it go. Imposter syndrome has been one of those things for me that I battle with constantly. But a friend of mine who's also an engineer and happens to be a male, he told me one thing. He said that in his research, he's discovered that those individuals who might experience imposter syndrome, they're normally those high achievers. And so the moment that you began to experience that imposter syndrome, check yourself and know, okay, I'm feeling this way because I am great. I am wonderful. I am awesome. I'm supposed to be here. I have high standards for myself. And so accept that, embrace that, and keep moving. Tear down those doors. If a seat is not at the table, move a chair to the side and sit right in there. And I like to tell my students all the time, once you get a seat at the table, don't just sit there, eat. I mean, express yourself. Make sure that your voice is heard. And you will have, those voices saying you're not supposed to be here. Don't say that. They don't think that you're great. They don't think that you belong here. But ignore those voices and keep pushing. You have to have affirmations on a daily basis. I am somebody. I deserve to be here. And just uplift yourself. There's a song, sometimes you do have to encourage yourself. So I give that advice all the time. Be your biggest cheerleader.
That's really good advice. While I was listening to your thoughts, I was thinking about the times that I have observed that same type of situation. And I think my comment about inclusion is that having a seat at the table is not inclusion.
Nope.
Selecting the menu is inclusion.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Well, hello. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Christine Royce. Dr. Royce is really great to meet you. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, and to have our discussion on girls and women in STEM. I've noticed that in discussions that I've been having with people in our network in the UK, across the US, and also some in Africa and Australia, that the interest in supporting girls and women is really a broad-based initiative. And it appears to me that it's in good hands. And so obviously I want to have some discussion with you about your impressions of those of us that are engaged in encouraging a broad diversity in STEM education. So let's begin with our first question, okay?
That sounds great. And thank you for inviting me to talk with you today.
Okay, great. As I said, we've seen a growth in STEM programs focusing in on girls. Some of these programs are driven by funding opportunities being available. Although some are out there, it appears to me that some folks are jumping on the bandwagon to this Me Too type of thing. Everybody's has one, so we've got to have one too, you know. Some of these programs have been around a while, while others operate on a seasonal basis, that is summer program or after school and this type of thing. I really don't know if which of these programs is better than another, whether it's in school or out of school, to introduce young women to STEM. And so that's the basic of the first question. Are there any benefits from your perspective on STEM programs, either in school, after school, et cetera, that focus in on girls and women in STEM?
Well, I think the first thing to point out is any opportunity we have to involve young girls, young women in STEM education is a great opportunity, whether it's in school or out of school or after school. I think just having the opportunity is going to help them seek what they might be engaged in, or think about what they might want to pursue.
Right.
Within school, I think we have a lot of opportunities where we can show students how to integrate curriculum. And we might talk about a topic in science that also involves mathematics or technology. The challenge within school is that we have a standard set of standards, curriculum that teachers must get through. And depending on where or what grade level, it doesn't always allow for that integration, although it should be tried, at least for the topics.
Right.
Outside of school, we're going to have a lot of opportunities for students to actually engage in different areas, whether it's extracurricular activities after school or programs like the Girl Scouts. They're going to be a little bit more focused and allow for that more targeted integration of a particular topic. So I think each has its own benefits, although each has its own downfalls as well. But the opportunity for kids to be involved, especially young ladies, is going to actually help them pursue something of interest if they're interested in it.
Yeah, I agree that in-school programs lead to a lot of variation between programs because all school systems are different. They're approaching the whole issue differently. Some are better resourced than others, so that's an issue as well. So yeah, I agree with that. I had to answer a question recently about my background. Basically, what led me to becoming an engineer, when really in my family there's no history of any engineers. Very few of my aunts and uncles and that went to school. They basically, like my mom was a housewife, and most of my relatives were civil service people who worked in factories, laborers, farmers, that kind of thing. I notice you have a fairly, everybody has a unique career path, and yours is just as unique as everybody else's. What was your motivation that led you from an elementary school teacher to where you are today?
So I think at one point when I went to college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I picked a field, and it wasn't the one that I graduated with, as many people do. I had worked at summer camps, and I had worked in Girl Scout programs and stuff like that during high school and college, and so education made sense to me. As an elementary school teacher, it was the topic that I thought, you know what, I like young kids. They're the ones I work with. But as time went on, I also realized I like teaching both the students and the subject, which kind of allowed me to go into middle school and high school. Over time, I've stayed in working with elementary school kids or elementary school teachers by moving to the college level and preparing future teachers. So that the path was a little bit of what I thought my initial interest was, and then realizing I had some additional interests that led me down a different path, although they were parallel. So it is a unique one. Yes.
It's interesting about paths and careers. I think despite all of the planning that we do to chart out a career path, there's a higher source that's sort of laying everything out. I remember I had a teacher in high school that wanted us all to be teachers, although we were in a tech type of a program. Now that I'm retired, I've been a substitute teacher in 2 different systems. I now teach, substitute math at a local community college. And it's really interesting how you sort of evolved into things due to 2 things, I think: preparation and opportunity. You find yourself with an opportunity, and then you look and you say, well, I can do that. You know, I've got the background and I can bring something unique to it. So you proceeded doing that. Okay. I'm glad we could get together again after our first interview in the preceding video. We've presented some articles in the presentations, in our publications, in our newsletter, and our white papers on some of the real and as well as the apparent differences in learning between girls and boys, because some people in some organizations tend to use that to sort of explain the achievement gap. Now, while continuing to focus on girls in this segment, I was wondering what, in your opinion, are some of the instructional strategies that educators can use to promote STEM and throughout the whole curriculum for all students.
So I do agree that at points we try to justify the achievement gap based on gender, and often it may come down more to opportunities. So I think from the opportunity perspective, ensuring that all young ladies, all young girls in the classroom have an equal opportunity to participate in STEM-like programs and make connections to things that they are interested in is going to be one of the first overarching strategies that we would focus on.
Okay.
If they're in the classroom, ensuring that in groups that you have girls and boys who are equally contributing and answering questions. And if they're working on a project together, don't let just one gender or one group do the building. Let all of them do the building. So ensuring that they have those opportunities is going to be the first thing I think that is extremely important. I think the second thing is that we have to figure out what the learning preferences are or the interest areas are for all of our students. And we will often hear generalizations that young women tend to be more verbal than visual, and they might like to read more than they like to talk. And while they're generalizations to start with, I think getting to know each student is going to be able to help encourage young ladies, young women to actually pursue something. If they're into reading, suggesting books that they might read about that actually deal with a topic in STEM. Or if they're into that design process, asking them to focus on that area when they're working on a project. And finally, I think the most important thing of helping with the strategies is ensuring that the young ladies have an opportunity in someone that they can go and talk to, a mentor, a support system. That could be you, the teacher in the classroom. That could be an extracurricular coach who's involved in STEM, or that could just be somebody in the community. But helping them make those connections to get their questions answered and serve as a mentor is going to create new questions for them, which is really what we want them to do as they pursue understanding the different subjects in STEM education.
Right, right. I noticed you mentioned tracks of girls and boys being different. I noticed in some school systems, I've seen in certain classes segregation between girls and boys in certain subjects because of the perceived differences and that kind of thing. How do you, or how would you suggest dealing with an adolescent, boys and girls, when boys tend to be a little bit more aggressive and girls tend to be a little less assertive? How do you manage that thing for STEM?
So if they're all in the same class and you have them working in groups, for example, at times we want to let the students select which role they take. Okay. And that's going to lead to the ability for any student, boys or girls, who are a little bit more talkative or assertive, to perhaps dominate the conversation. So sometimes we just have to back off, and we might go around and identify by number and have this pre-planned who's going to be the spokesperson. And that gives you the opportunity to make sure that if a young lady is the one who's not going to be as vocal and assertive, perhaps, giving them the opportunity where they have to do the speaking while the others might be quiet. Okay. So sometimes that's a little bit of pre-planning and a structuring of that on our part as a teacher. That can help with that. But the other topic that could just be done very easily is simple things in the classroom. I'm going to call on someone and they have to call on someone else. And just doing something where if it's a young boy who's speaking, they have to call on a young female. And if a young female speaking, they have to call on a young male. So we're getting that equal opportunity to actually start to play. So there's some structured strategies and then some informal strategies that would allow us to at least try to encourage all of the students in the classroom to engage.
That's good. I've seen that work in some successful programs, and I've also seen some attempts at that hadn't turned out so well just because of classroom management and that type of thing. So really interesting. Gee, I really appreciate your time and in these interviews, and I look forward to our continued discussion on these and related subjects as time goes on. Hello, Fatima.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I am well. We're finally here.
Yeah, well, some things take time.
Man, it has been a journey. Super busy, but I'm so incredibly thankful.
I can imagine. I can imagine. That setting behind you, what is that? Describe what's behind
This is the learning lab.
Okay.
Where my cubicle sits in the back. But basically, we have several programs. Those include K through 12. Do you want to cancel the? Sorry, my computer is sending me update notification. It has K through 12 programs, and so we actually are having Osborne come to the location next week. We have Western International High School, and it encompasses different equipment to teach them the foundations of automation and manufacturing. Okay. And so to the right, I think that would be to your right, you see there we have a Pegasus robot and the computer software with the coding and programming to go with it, along with the PLC. And then the other side, we have hydraulic, and we have a pneumatic simulator. We have electrical controls. We have mills and lathes downstairs. So it's pretty much a learning lab.
I tell you, it sounds like it's terrific. Hello, I'm pleased to introduce you to Fatima Majid as we discuss issues around girls and women in STEM. She is the third person that we have invited to share their experiences and thoughts on this subject of women in STEM. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Fatima Majid is a manager of talent programs and industrial partnerships with LIFT. She supports the credentialing program initiative, which is designed to provide industry-recognized skills in articulated robotics by instructing a course utilizing curriculum such as safety, mechanical basics, electrical systems, PLC, program logic, operations, programming, fluid power, basic setup, just a whole host of things dealing with robotics and configuration. She's been a standout professional in the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE, and she actually serves right now as the local chairperson for the chapter in Detroit. She's a graduate of Tuskegee University with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, and she also has a Master of Science degree in Biomedical Engineering from Lawrence Technological University in Detroit, with a concentration on bioinstrumentation. And she's a recipient of 2 years ago, the 2020 SMPD, which refers to the Scholars, Scientists, Mentors, and Diversity Program. She received an award for that a couple of years ago. Despite all of that time, she also finds time to volunteer with the Biomedical Engineering Society and with Toastmasters. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to Fatima Majid. Well, how you doing, Fatima?
I am so incredibly well. Thank you so much for that awesome introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and to do this, and I hope that our audience will be able to gather something positive about this field.
Well, I'm sure they will. You know, I've seen reports recently and actually going back some time describing the decline in college enrollment for both women and men, along with reports that discuss women leaving the engineering and STEM careers earlier than their male counterparts do. I know that each of us, you and I both have seen our peers who are women, who are equally knowledgeable in their fields as others in those fields as well. So there may be some uncertainty about women engineers that is often used to explain the low share of women having jobs in the field. As a matter of fact, you may have heard some of them. So let me ask you a first question. If girls and women make good engineers and scientists, what might some of the reasons be?
Well, right now, you all should know that our world is shifting when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And with that is a focus on girls and women. One of the greatest characteristics is our ability to manage well, right? So when it comes to projects and designs, we actually can bring forth innovation and have that come to life, in the physical just as well as we do in our natural selves. So we have incredible insights onto making these new direction into innovation.
Okay, good. The issue of role models also comes up quite a bit, and I was wondering, seeing someone who looks like you and gives you inspiration and advice is a given. Is those of us like you and I who consider ourselves mentors. Now, your service as a mentor and a regional leader with NSBE and others is really admirable. I've really been impressed by that. So how important was it for you to have a mentor at various stages in your life?
I believe that it's incredibly important. And the reason that I focus so much on mentorship today is because honestly, I didn't have mentors during my elementary, middle school, high school years. It wasn't until I was in my career in industrial hydraulics at the age of 25 where I got my first mentor that was assigned to me from the company that I worked for. And so it was then where I started to understand the value of having a mentor to guide you, someone who've experienced things prior to you, who could, be a light path, right, and kind of guide your direction. And so, the sooner the better, right? And so again, this is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate into being a mentor and starting, earlier. Now, when we try to reach these middle school girls, as that is the age range where they tend to disengage with the STEM fields. And so in order to do that, let's get involved. Let's do our part in mentoring as early as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that you were assigned a mentor. And I've talked to those of us who are underrepresented in the field, both men and women, and they talk about at various stages in their career the challenge of identifying a true mentor. And it's interesting that you were assigned one at your point. So I think that might have been an advantage for you, but I don't know.
What is happening is a lot of these companies recognize the need of mentorship, especially for those who are underrepresented, and as you spoke about before. So programs like Science Mentor and Diversity Program, SMDP, there's another that I have another mentorship opportunity called Mentorship Women for the medical industry. So Med Tech Women. That's another program. And so there's a lot of these programs that are coming up to create these opportunities where you align yourself with someone that you are able to relate to and to ask these questions at any time. Sometimes they're scheduled meetings. And also I want to make a point that as I mentor, I also receive mentorship at every stage of my life and career. And so
it's a give and take. It's a give and take.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. When I go out and speak to youngsters or in various settings, they're there to hear something from you. But a lot of times they're pouring stuff and information into you as well. So that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yes. Okay. I do want to make a comment.
Sure.
When it comes to my master's program, I have not completed my master's. So I'm halfway through the program. So I don't have a...
Oh, you're still in the master's program?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still a candidate. And for the National Society of Black Engineers, I'm a chair emeritus. So I don't hold the position of chair this year. So I was a past chair. That was such a good introduction. I didn't want to stop you.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. I wanted to ask a question that basically I think is an important question to ask and an important question for you to respond to. As a woman in STEM, at what point in your career did that spark occur for you to basically awaken in you the passion to pursue a career in science and engineering? Where did that occur?
Well, education has always been a primary focus in our household growing up. And for me, Barbies and those type of toys were quite expensive, right? So my father, he actually would get me the more affordable toys, like the G.I. Joes and the Legos and, the blocks. And so those actually sparked those spatial skills, right?
Okay.
And it was actually influencers on television. So I don't know if you're familiar with MacGyver or G.I. Joe or all the X-Men, that's science fiction.
Yeah.
And if you catch those movies, you can really just get inspired by the medical innovations that come across the screen,
Right.
Just some really cool ideas. And so with that, you get an idea of, one day becoming a hero. And so you could translate that to, in real life, becoming a hero in the science, technology, engineering, and math field, and then inspiring others. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Were there things that sort of kept you going as you moved through your career? Other inspirational issues or events that kept you moving?
It was DAPSEP. We have an organization here in Detroit, Michigan, which is a pre-collegiate initiative in the sciences. We also have the Metro Detroit Science Fair, which I was actually awarded a certificate and medal for my science project back in middle school. High school was math, science, and applied technology. It was an MSAT focus. I did Voltech. So it's actually just a continuous progression of involvement in this field, right? And just sticking to it, and having the confidence, not being intimidated by the equipment or the study or the information, but actually just putting forth the time and the focus. And so I think that whole progression has been monumental in my experience.
Okay, interesting. For a young lady who might be a little bit intimidated by science and engineering and the technology, you and I both know there are a whole host of careers related to STEM, and that's why we see a lot of career and technical education being pursued. Are those good opportunities for a youngster to pursue?
Absolutely. So there are several different avenues that you can go with STEM. And today, technology is progressing so very fast that there are branches within fields. And if there's not something that you find that has a lot of information, be the pioneer and you get involved with it. So when it comes to space exploration, when it comes to robotics in the field that I currently work in, when it comes to technology and coding and artificial intelligence, there's so many different avenues to just go in and play around with, and that become a profitable career for you. So I think that there's so many ways to go with it.
That's good. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Science, engineering, and technology has no gender. It has no race or ethnicity. The makeup of the workforce today and the workforce in the future, however, looks like it's going to be slightly different, which suggests to me that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I want to thank you and the audience for taking a few moments to view our program. We're pleased to focus attention on this subject for our global audience because, again, we're making progress in that area, but the progress that's been made, from my perspective, only says that there's much progress yet to be achieved in that area. Please, if you get a chance, visit our website, enroll as a premium subscriber so that you have access to all of our digital publications. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourself. Thanks again, and thank you for our guests for appearing.